Hello and welcome to my femininity class. Today's topic is to revive your femininity with a gentler mindset. So our goal today is to embrace a gentler mindset, one that enables us to live with gentleness and femininity in all that we say and do. While we're together today, we'll pinpoint some unhelpful thoughts, we'll talk about the root of harsh thinking, and we'll take time to discuss the techniques for a gentler outlook on life. If we want to embrace femininity, then it's vitally important that we are mindful of our thoughts. So a favorite saying of mine is this: watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become your actions. Watch your actions, for they become your habits. Watch your habits, because they become your character. And watch your character, because it becomes your destiny. It all starts with our thoughts. Thoughts like criticism, guilt, longing, shame, and negativity. So these are unhelpful thoughts for everyone, but especially for those of us who are striving to revive and restore our femininity. So then let's get to the root of each of these unhelpful thoughts and mindsets. I'll be sharing tips for a gentler outlook to counteract things like the criticism, longing, guilt, shame, and negativity. And in order to help you cultivate an easygoing, peace-filled, content, comfortable, and positive mindset. So criticism. Criticism is evident in thoughts like, why would you do it that way? Or, and you did that because, or you missed a spot. These are unhelpful thoughts because they harp on things that aren't good, and it's really just unnecessary. The root to this is often things like perfectionism, or maybe even anxiety can be at the root of it as well, that their anxiety that their way of doing things isn't going to be effective enough. Sometimes we challenge others via criticism because we think that our way of doing things is better. The truth is that this is competitive thinking, and there's no need to compete. So consider with me for a moment that whomever we might be tempted to be critical of, whether it's a friend or a spouse or even yourself, that person did do something. They did something. So therefore, an attitude of gratitude and appreciation for at least the thought that they had to do something for you or to do something thoughtful may be in order. So for a gentler outlook, focus on whatever is good, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable. If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Now, I can't claim that that's a Bible verse. That's from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. So we want to truly strive to understand and appreciate and respect that person's unique way of doing things. Not the spot that they missed. We don't want to focus on that. We want to focus on the rest that they got wonderfully right. So once your thoughts are ones of gratitude, then your words will follow, and the other person will feel more appreciated, and you then also can relax and enjoy their company. So then there's guilt, longing, and shame. So we see the evidence of guilt, longing, and shame in thoughts like, well, that should be me. Or, well, why couldn't I do that? Or, well, that must be nice. So these are all unhelpful because they focus on what's not instead of what could be. And the root of this is usually a longing for something else, or it could be guilt that you aren't doing more, or maybe even shame about your own shortcomings. So for a gentler outlook, we want to make a plan to avoid doing things that tend to leave you feeling guilty or with shame. You want to make sure that you turn those longings that you have into a reality for yourself, in your own unique way and on a scale that works for you. Once you realize your own potential and have peace with what you do, then you can enjoy thoughts of excitement and satisfaction and peace with other people's accomplishments as well. Negativity. So negativity is seen in thoughts like, I can't, or everything is just ruined, or maybe even, I'll never. So these are unhelpful because they focus only on the negative possibility. But there's always other options and possibilities that can be found. So the root of this is usually thinking lowly of oneself, maybe having a bleak outlook on life, or a feeling that the negative experiences that you've encountered in the past will now inevitably occur in the future. But the present and the future don't have to be a mirror of the past. It can be a brighter future. So for a gentler outlook, get creative, consider the other possibilities, and if everything seems ruined, Just consider, is there a way to make beauty of the mess? God always makes beauty of the mess, and you see it in certain scenarios in the Bible, and he can do the same thing with us. So try a different way to handle, address, and resolve what you felt negative about originally, and see if you can turn a negative into a positive, even if it won't be today. Can you restore things perhaps on another day? And even if you can't, perhaps now you can be a light to someone else who can. So the more you focus on possibilities and potential, the more positivity that you'll have in your heart. All right, so let's talk about how we can do a harshness screening. So while we strive for a gentler outlook on life, it might be helpful to remember that femininity is not a destination. Living with gentleness and femininity in all that you say and do is a journey. And along that journey, our mindset will likely meander closer to harshness than we'd like sometimes. So it's helpful to stay mindful of how your body works and your tone. So here are a few tips to help you screen yourself for a harsh mindset. So it's good to take notice. Take notice of your body. And if you feel tension on your eyebrows or maybe near the corners of your lips, or if you feel that your eyebrows are raised, and if you feel like your shoulders are raised and tense, or you might find that your arms are now crossed due to an emotion. If when you do this screening and you notice your body, you notice that you do have some of these signs, then you might be harboring a harsh mindset. Another way to screen yourself is to listen to your words. Does each statement have the capacity to be helpful? Or do your words only have the capacity to be hurtful? If the latter is truest, then you might be harboring a harsh mindset. And if you're not sure when you listen to your tone, just consider this. If someone in a grocery store spoke to you with the same tone that you are speaking with now, would it be acceptable to you? Would that type of tone welcome a receptive ear? Or is it the type of tone that would put up a wall of defensiveness and now then become the main bigger topic of discussion? So then if you're doing your screening and you're listening to your tone and you notice any of these signs, then you might be harboring a harsh mindset. So if you do these harshness screenings and you find that your face feels tense or your tone is harsh, just relax. Relax in each one of those areas. Relax in your face, relax in your shoulders, relax your arms, do your best to straighten your posture, and give yourself some grace along the way as well. Give the other person grace too. And be sure to be understanding that we're all still learning, we're all still growing, and we're all still blossoming into the best of ourselves. All right, so I'd love to know, how did you enjoy today's class and what questions do you have for me? You can let me know in the comments below, or if you'd like, you can save your questions for supports group or for coaching. Either way, I very much look forward to supporting you along your journey. All right, thanks again for attending, and I hope you have a blessed day. Hello, and welcome to my femininity class. Today's topic is revive your femininity with gentler interactions. So our goal today is to interact in a gentle way that radiates a feminine essence and leaves a loving impression. While we're together today, we'll reflect on the impact of our tone. We'll consider the power and value of silence. We'll study the art of listening, and we'll discuss tips for gentler interactions with our husbands, children, family, friends, and strangers. So I'll start with some tips for how to interact with different people. The Bible says it best in Philippians chapter 4, verse 5. It says, "Let your gentleness be evident to all." So it's common for us to change our demeanor depending on who we're around. Maybe being more respectful to our fathers, or maybe being more blunt with our mothers, maybe raising our voices in arguments with our significant others, even though we would never treat our supervisor at work the same way. But when we act with duplicity and we alter our level of gentleness, then we're actually giving the other person control over who and how we are. But no one should get the privilege of altering our character into anything that it's not. Plus, keep in mind that everyone, whether young or old, familiar or unfamiliar, is worthy of respect. So whatever your unique character is and your unique personality is, it's best to be consistent in your interactions with everyone, whether husband, children, supervisors, work, family, friends, or strangers. So let's talk about speaking and being slow to speak. So the Bible says it best, to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So you may have heard that before, and James was talking about how we should conduct ourselves. Here's a little bit more context. It says, "My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this, that everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Therefore, get rid of all moral filth, all the evil that's so prevalent, and humbly accept the word of God that is planted in you, which can save you. Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. And that's James chapter 19, verse 22. So then, of course, we want to think first before we speak. To think about what we want to say to make sure that it's something that's actually going to be helpful. We only want to say what's helpful and useful for the building up of others. Now remember, the tongue is powerful. It has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat of its fruit. And that's Proverbs 18:24. We want to maintain a gentle tone. And no, we don't have to be monotone or boring. We can still have a tone that conveys passion about the subject, but there can be a harmful impact to a harsh tone. A harsh tone can be scary for the listener. It can cause them to quickly just build up a wall of defensiveness to protect themselves. And a harsh tone can invite judgment of your behavior and start to have other people questioning your character. So do your best to maintain a gentler mindset, one that's filled with grace and understanding, so that you can speak with a gentle tone and you'll remain heard and you'll remain blameless. You want to maintain a moderate volume. When you're speaking with a loud voice, this creates alarm, and it keeps the conversation soothing with a moderate tone. So remember, even if your mouth isn't talking, your face is. So make sure that you have embraced that understanding, that grace in your heart, so that that gentler expression or so that gentler speech can also be matched by your expression. The Bible says that out of the overflow of our hearts, our mouths speak. And I think it works kind of the same way as well for our expressions. So just make sure it's good in there. It's so important that we work on our speech, because words that are spoken with a gentle tone and a grace-filled heart, they'll radiate a feminine essence and leave a loving impression. Then there's listening. So without good listening, we can leave a person feeling unheard, neglected, and their thoughts and feelings rejected. And we don't want that. So let's take a second to look at the art of listening. So the art of listening has way less to do with our ears and way more to do with our bodies and our minds. So listening starts with our bodies. We want to make sure that we're attentive listeners and that we are making sure people feel heard. So it helps too, if we have anything in our hands, to put down whatever's in our hands and turn our bodies to face the speaker. And make sure that we're giving eye contact as well. Then listening goes to your mind. So you'll want to stop what you're thinking about for that moment. Even if you put your phone down, you're still kind of having those thoughts. Stay focused. Don't think about the crumb that's on their cheek. Don't think about your next response that you really want to say. Just clear your mind and actively listen to what they're saying. Now that you're listening with your whole body and your ears, you want to make sure that you're showing interest in what they're saying. So show this with your expression on your face, with your body language, and it could be your 2-year-old who's talking to you about something small. It could be someone talking about sports that maybe you're just not that interested in. Or maybe an elderly person in the store who wants to just stop and show you all these photos of her grandchildren. Even if you're not all that interested, just care enough about the person. Notice their expression. Notice their gestures and their body language and their joy. Cherish the moment and the blessing that it is that they decided to open up to you and to converse with you. So ladies, listening with our ears and our minds and our body language, these things are so important because they also radiate that feminine essence and they leave a loving impression. And then there's silence. I encourage you to give more time and gaps in silence than you think you need. So when you think that there's a break in the conversation and you should speak, try just nodding and maybe say a word or two. And then that way they know that they're heard. And then try counting to 10 in your mind. And you might be very surprised that they did actually have more to say before you reach 10. The power of silence is that it encourages other people to have the chance to open up. And if you don't rush in to share something about yourself in that moment to maybe relate, it gives them an opportunity to then inquire about you. So the value of silence is that the other person gets to feel heard and you get to actually learn more about them as well. And this helps to build a closer relationship. Yes, ladies, even silence radiates that feminine essence and leaves a loving impression. So a word on advice. It's natural to want to say something once a person is finished speaking. Sometimes our go-to response would be advice, but I suggest that you always ask first before offering advice. Make sure that if you do offer it, that it's advice that will actually be helpful and truly helpful to building them up so they can feel nurtured and strengthened by your words. Avoid asking something like, I have advice and I really want to share it. Can I share it? This puts pressure on them to say yes. So try asking something like this. So would you like advice, or would you just like a listening ear for right now? If you give them a way out, then they might actually decide to just decline and say, really, I would just like to have, I just want to vent. Or if they'd like, then they'll ask you and you can give them that very gentle and uplifting advice. Or you could skip advice and just try asking questions. Not the type that are going to be judgmental, like, do you think that was a good idea? And not for the sole purpose to just share your own answers. This actually just lets them know that you're interested in them in their life. And it gives them an opportunity to create their own answers and find a resolution for themselves. And if for some reason they don't have an answer, they might ask you in return, and then you can share advice in that case. So in doing this, you can just let the conversation then naturally proceed in whichever direction it'll go. So this week and the weeks to come, do your best to be consistent in your interactions with everyone. Speak helpful words in a gentle way. Make sure that you leave room for vulnerable silence and listen with your whole body. And in doing so, you'll radiate a feminine essence and leave a loving impression with everyone that you interact with. So if you could use more guidance with any of these healthy habits, just know that I'm here to guide you, and you can find more details on my website, which is trulythrivinglives.org. All right, ladies, have a blessed day. Hey, babies. How are your blocks coming?
Nice. Pretty nice, because I'm not running a blue block.
You're running out of blue blocks.
And black block.
Hello and welcome to my femininity class. Today's topic is to revive your femininity with softer spaces. So our goal for today is to discover ways to soften your space for a feminine ambiance that both uplifts you and reflects your personality too. While we're together today, we'll reflect on the current state of our spaces. We'll learn about ways to soften and beautify our spaces. We'll discuss ways to go beyond neat and tidy to create a very pretty, very feminine space. And we'll also do our best to ensure that our spaces are a very positive reflection of ourselves as well. So let's start by looking at the current state of our spaces. So what's the current state of each of your spaces? You can go room by room by room. Your kitchen, living room, dining room, bedroom, even your clothes closet, the hallway closet, maybe even your yard or your car, your office. These are all the spaces that you want to look into and soften, because they're all a reflection of you, and they all affect, how you feel within your space. So before we try to add that feminine touch, we want to make sure that we take time to declutter what's hiding the natural beauty of the space. So in each space, take time to declutter and get rid of as much excess as possible. And you don't want to just relocate it to another room. You want to make sure that you actually get it out of your home. So in your kitchen, just clear everything off the counters, every dish, every appliance, to make sure that there's plenty of space for you to cook delicious meals in. In the living room, avoid using your couch for storage space for coats, for clothes, for laundry, etc. You want to make sure that your guests have a very inviting place to sit. In your dining room, make sure that all the mail and the papers are off the dining room table. Make sure that it stays completely empty, with the exception of maybe some flowers, so that you have a very clean slate to start with when you go to set the table. And so that people can eat there and the mail that was sitting there won't be saying spots taken. In your bedroom, the place that we tend to hide a few things that we don't really have a place for. Just make sure that you remove everything that doesn't belong in a bedroom so that you can use that as a clutter-free space to relax. In the bathroom, make sure that you declutter to get rid of as much as possible, not just relocating it to another room, but making sure that you get that out of your home. Be sure to remove all products and tools that are in sight, and make the countertops and the floor completely empty so that it's easier to clean. In the closets, make sure that you let go of any unnecessary items that are in your closets, especially in the coat closet. Make sure that it is a very clean and inviting space for your guests' coats. Make sure there's enough hangers and that it's a very inviting space where they feel comfortable leaving their belongings. In the yard, make sure that you're decluttering the yard so that it's inviting to be in. So that would include getting rid of any junk piles that have been stored out there for a while. In the car, make sure that you declutter the car so that it'll be available to transport people. That the seat is available, you don't have to rush and rumble through to try to clear the seats, that the car is available and smells fresh and is clean and vacuumed and everything. And in your office, you want to make sure that you declutter your desk and declutter your drawers so that you can be more productive. All right, so once we have cleared out that space, it's time to clean. Now remember, we want to make sure our space is very comfortable and a place that we feel like we can relax with our guests. So it helps to make sure that the space is nice and clean. In general, this means things like sweeping, mopping, cleaning the windows, cleaning the walls and doors. Specifically in the kitchen, make sure that you're cleaning the inside and outside of the cabinets, that you clean the inside and out of the oven and the fridge, the dishwasher and the microwave. And in the living room, you want to make sure that you're cleaning under the couch. That way, if anybody happens to drop something during the party, you can be confident that it's clean enough to move the couch and you won't be embarrassed. In the dining room, make sure that you clean the table off so that it's nice and crumb-free and ready for the delicious meals. In the bedroom, be sure to wash your linens regularly. In the bathroom, make sure that your mirrors, counters, sink, drawers, that the toilet and everything is always impeccably clean so that your bathroom can be a place where you enjoy pampering yourself and it can be a very comfortable space for your guests to use your restroom. In the yard, make sure that all the outdoor chairs and tables are clean and free from dirt and pollen. And in the car, make sure you're vacuuming those seats and the floors, clean the windows inside and out, get a car wash as well. You can go to a car detailer or you can do it yourself, whatever works best for you. And in your office, make sure you're dusting and cleaning those surfaces around you so that those can stay nice and clean as well. If you've recently given birth, or maybe your knees or your back aren't what they used to be, or you're just not able to clean for whatever the reason, that's okay. You can forgo your mani-pedi, you can bring your lunch to work for the week, whatever you've got to do. Save up some extra cash, or ask a loved one, or hire someone to give your home a good and thorough cleaning. It doesn't have to be weekly, just do a good deep clean a few times each year. So now that you've taken time to declutter your space and give it a good deep clean, now's a perfect time to soften your space with decor and to add that feminine touch. So to make sure that the ambiance that we breathe in is very appealing, it helps to decorate with our 5 senses in mind. That way we can delight whatever we see, smell, hear, taste, and touch. To ensure the space is inviting to the eye, make sure that you use color and a color scheme. Try different shapes, and some warm lighting as well can be helpful. And this helps to add a feminine touch to the visual aesthetics. Now you want to avoid dark colors and avoid a very gloomy looking room. Avoid too many mute colors, avoid a room that looks washed out. Try to stick to bright colors. Do want to have control over the color, but we want to stick to bright colors and try to stick to a color scheme. So a color scheme might be everything in the room is yellow and orange, or everything in the room is blue and pink. And even if you have a very eclectic style, there are color schemes that include 4 or 5 colors. And as far as which shapes to use for your pillows and other decor, just try to use very smooth, very organic shapes. And those are the most feminine. To ensure that the space is interesting to use, a variety of textures is very visually interesting and just a really nice touch. So have some things that are soft, some things that are smooth, some things that are fluffy, etc. But everything doesn't have to be soft. It's still good to have that textural variety and contrast. So to add a feminine touch to the textural experience, make sure that you have lots of pillows and throw blankets in your living room and in your bedroom, and even nice car blankets as well for chilly weather. So to ensure that the space is a calming space to the ear, try to fill the air with the delightful sounds to add to the feminine touch. Audio aesthetics like playing music with a low volume, playing natural nature sounds, or just simply opening up a window so that you have enough real sounds of nature. To make sure it's a feminine touch to the scent, make sure that you keep the scent light and that you avoid synthetic scents, to be considerate of any guests that might have allergies to fragrances. So you can try using natural potpourri. Try flowers like white lilies to fill the air with a very fresh scent, or you can use essential oils as a diffuser, or just cook something nice. To ensure that the space seems delicious to taste, make sure that you have plenty of healthy foods available, including a fully stocked fridge and pantry. To add to the visual aesthetics, make sure that you have something that looks delicious to eat that's out and ready, like a bowl of fruit or some healthy snacks in a basket. And you can even do a healthy snack basket in the living room or in the car or in your office. So amongst all these aesthetics, we want to make sure that we have a personal touch. All these tips for decorating and feminine touches should simply be a secondary complement to the primary factor, your own personal style. So it could be a modern style with African prints. It might be a Gothic style with a rock theme. It could be a bohemian style with a nature theme, or a beachy farmhouse style. Whichever style you choose, just be sure that you personalize it with your own favorite artwork, your own favorite photos, some quotes or maybe scriptures. You can add your own keepsakes, some fresh candles that maybe you made yourself. You can decorate with your own paint and have your own favorite books and literature on the walls as well. So all these aspects will help to make sure that your space will reflect the unique essence of who you are, as well as making sure that your space has a very beautiful feminine ambiance. All right, thanks again for attending, and I hope that you have a blessed day. Hello, and welcome to my femininity class. Today's topic is to revive your femininity with a softer appearance. So our goal for today is to discover ways to adorn yourself that highlight and reflect your inner beauty, your personality, and femininity. So while we're together today, we'll consider how our appearance impacts our interactions. We'll discuss ways to soften our appearance. We'll learn tips to go beyond neatly matching to embrace feminine adornment. And of course, we'll do our best to ensure that our feminine appearance also aligns with our personality. So let's start by looking at how our appearance impacts our interactions. When we look good, we feel good. And when we feel good, we interact more confidently. When we feel good about how we look, we can trade any envy for appreciation, because we are then able to be content with how we look and not envy others. And instead, we can we can start to appreciate the ambiance and the effort that it took for them to get that beautiful look. So our appearance can also impact how others interact with us. So people are just designed. We're designed to respond to visual cues. So if we dress in pajamas, we'll be treated like we're tired. If we dress in old tattered clothing, we might be treated like we're in need. If we dress in a neutral way, then we'll likely be treated in a neutral way. If we dress like a lady, then we'll be treated like a lady. So it's a natural response. Since how we adorn ourselves has such a big impact on our interactions and our outlook, we want to make sure that we look at how to maintain a feminine appearance. So let's look at some ways to soften our appearance. We're going to start with hygiene. So the first and most important step to maintaining a very feminine appearance is to start with a very fresh, well-manicured base. So let's look at some hygiene tips that can help us do just that. So some tips for very feminine looking skin is cleansing daily, exfoliating weekly, moisturizing daily, making sure that we use a very natural deodorant daily, and that we have a very light perfume. I also have some tips for healthy teeth. So you can discreetly swish water after a meal to prevent any staining and also to keep your breath fresh. It's also good to brush twice a day to repair any dental needs that you have and to make sure that you're naturally whitening your teeth as well. As far as our hair hygiene, make sure that you are cleansing and moisturizing so that your hair looks good and smells good and feels good. Be sure to trim any stray body hairs, and of course this doesn't have to be some painful waxing or plucking. It could just be some little tiny lady scissors or maybe some little lady clippers as well. As far as our nails, they don't always have to be painted, but it is important to clean and trim and file those nails and to also clean underneath with a nice nail brush. And with a fresh manicured base, that'll actually highlight your femininity regardless of how you end up adorning yourself for the day. So speaking of adornment, we want to make sure that we're going beyond neatly matching and actually embracing feminine adornment. So here's a few feminine adornment tips. Now, since the goal is to exude femininity, it's very important to avoid the opposite, which is masculinity. Please keep in mind that the following tips are in general, that these items may at times be able to be used in feminine ways, but it's usually best to avoid items that generally exude any type of masculine vibes. So avoid masculine colors, which are like dark colors, muted colors. We want to avoid fabrics that are very plain, textures that are plain. We want to avoid patterns and stripes and paisley. We want to avoid certain patterns like stripes and paisley and plaid. It's good to avoid styles with collars, button downs, things like hoodies. And we want to choose instead colors that are bright or pale, textures that are smooth and soft. We want to choose patterns that have things like flowers or polka dots, styles with scoop necks, and strapless V-necks, spaghetti straps, etc. And while we're on the topic of how we're presenting ourselves, it's good to treat yourself with a very well-fitting bra that has very good support, and to have seamless undies because we want to make sure that our outfit is all that's seen. It's also helpful to avoid masculine accessories like jewelry that has like a thick chain or a thick band to a watch, or maybe a large clock face on the watch. We want to make sure that we have accessories like, we want to avoid accessories like bandanas or rubber bands as hair ties. We want to make sure that anything we carry with us, any bags, that they're not gray or black or brownish. As far as our wallet, we want to avoid a black or brown or gray wallet, anything that a man would wear. As far as wallets and phone cases, things like that, we want to avoid black, brown, or grayish wallets. And it's good to use some type of makeup. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be something simple that just accentuates your natural beauty so that you can shine through. All right, so if you're ever unsure about an item, you can always double check by asking yourself, could the color, the fabric, the texture, the style be mistaken for something that's in the men's section at the store? If the answer is yes, it could be yes in any way, then maybe it may be best to just choose something else. But if the answer is a very confident no to all the different aspects, to the color, texture, etc., then know that you found something that will highlight your femininity. So keep in mind that these tips for feminine adornment should only be a secondary complement to your primary style. If you're into crafting and creativity, then let your personal style highlight your very artsy personality. If you're into nature, then a bohemian style might suit you best. Or if you're one for fitness and athletics or adventure, then grab some pretty hiking boots, a cute tennis skirt, or a matching legging and hoodie set. All of this can enable you to look your best while you're having fun. All of these are the final touches that allow your own personal style to shine. Whichever you choose, be sure to highlight your inner beauty as well. So if in your heart you're a modest woman who wants to cover, let your modest adornment reflect your personality and your dedication. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and so is your look. So if you're a quiet person, your style of dress can be your outward expression to the world, telling about who and how you are without having to say a word. And regardless of what you're wearing, it's always very helpful to maintain a quiet and gentle spirit, to have a relaxed face and expression, to have an uplifted posture, and to make sure that you also have a very warm smile. So you may have noticed earlier that I said my family and I, we live with 12 healthy habits in order to enjoy a better quality of life. So then femininity is just one of the 12. We embrace all these healthy habits so that we can have less bad habits to sabotage our efforts to obey God, and more good habits to support our success as we live to do all that Yahweh called us to do. For all these healthy habits, I offer guidance via videos, workbooks, classes, and support group to help you to implement and stick with each habit. So if you could use help with this or any of the 12 healthy habits, just know I'm here to guide you, and you can find details on my website, which is trulythrivinglives.org. All right, so I'd love to know, how did you enjoy today's class, and what questions do you have for me? You can let me know in the comments below, or if you'd like, you can save your questions for support group or for coaching. Either way, I very much look forward to supporting you along your journey. All right, thanks again for attending, and I hope that you have a blessed day.